Do you know that almost every great invention, if you look back at, let's say, British history, if you look at some of the great innovations that have come out of Britain, almost all of them have had a multiple at the same time. Someone over here is inventing the telephone, someone over here is working on a similar device and they don't know about it. Someone here's same thing happened in the radio. Same thing happened with a steam engine. More than one person at the same time working quite separately on the same thing. Why is that possible? Because of this idea of the adjacent possible. Ideas feed off existing ideas in the plateau, in the plane at the same time. Here's a good example. Charles Babbage. Anybody ever heard of him? He was a London mathematician, philosopher, great inventor. In the 1830s, he developed two machines, theoretically. He couldn't build them, either of them, because the parts didn't exist yet. That's how far ahead he was. But in theory, they were very important to the subsequent history of invention and technology. One was called the difference engine. The difference engine, if he had been able to build it, would have been the fastest mechanical calculator in history. 100 years after his birth, the London Science Museum invented one or built one of these contraptions. Remember, it's not digital, it's mechanical. And it was accurate to 31 places in seconds. That's like your washing machine doing calculations to 31 places in seconds. It's a mechanical object that can do things with that accuracy. It's amazing. It's incredible. In the century after his death, although he couldn't build it in his lifetime, several other people began to build components of this and used that idea to launch other inventions. At around the same time, though, he was working on the analytical engine, which in theory became the world's first programmable computer. This is in the 1830s, and he was a Brit. Computer scientists today recognise he was the first one to build, at least in his head, a computer as we know them. He even came up with the word program. He talked about programs being inserted in the machine with punch cards. Punch cards, which, by the way, had already been invented for the textile mills. He was using them with his theoretical computer. Now, unlike the difference machine, nobody after his death could do anything with this idea. It was 100 years after he died that anybody actually built a computer. Nobody could use the idea, nobody could apply it. Why? There was no adjacent possible at the time. There was nothing else around that could feed into it and make it doable. Are you still with me?